to this story. That's much better. Awesome. Thank you, Flipping Backs. Appreciate that. I do want there to be music in the background, but I don't want it to be like overpowering so you can't hear me or whatever. But lo-fi music is like quite nice, quite nice and calming, isn't it? So yeah, couple of minutes, we'll get started. I'm good with the volume, I can hear the music, but it doesn't drown you out. Perfect, Silky. If everybody's in agreement with Silky and Flipping Backs, then we will leave the sound at that. Can turn it down just a tiny little touch, if you want, just a tiny little touch. Pretty good sound, thank you. It took me ages to get my mic working, and I've just bought the mic, so I do not want the mic to not work. Wonderful. I should not be drinking Red Bull at 8 o'clock at night. Right. So, couple more minutes, just like 1 more minute. Quick note to anybody, when we do get started, if anybody does come in, whilst we're like, just curious, do you have weed dispensaries like in the States? Unfortunately, not, Rusty. We haven't quite caught up with you guys over there, just yet, sadly. Stone Gallows, I think he's working, because it's kind of like, I think just like the end of the work day for Stone Gallows, so she's probably in the transitional period of work and getting to leisure, so we'll hopefully try and wait on another couple of minutes and see if she can make it, but yeah, I've been really rubbish today with like keeping everybody updated and stuff, because I've genuinely writ a lot of this today, and I've also been making candles today and sorting that out, so I've been a little bit busy, I'll tell you what I do have though. I've actually got one for the stream, not for the meme, for the stream. And they're beautiful. I like to kind of light it just before bed because it gives off such a beautiful glow. Sounds like Jack Sparrow. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. I don't think there's any reality that Jack Sparrow don't sound and look hella cool. Or is that just me? Probably just me. I'm a very weird chap like that. I don't actually think I've watched the all of them, to be honest though. I've only ever seen a couple of the Pirates of the Caribbeans. But, right, I'm stalling. I'm procrastinating now at this point, I think. Shall we get started? So, like right, okay, so just to let everybody know, we're going to start with the presentation now. It's going to probably take about 15 minutes or so. If you don't mind, just if anybody pops in, like whilst we're kind of midway through, if you don't mind just saying that, I don't know, we're kind of in the middle of something and kind of missed it, sorry and all that, join the flipping Discord. That'd be always a great way to stay up to date. But yeah, if you don't mind just letting people know so they don't just think that I'm ignoring them like we had last time, that'd be great. But yeah, other than that, I think we're pretty much good. I think that's pretty much all I ask of you. And yeah, I may make mistakes in this, so just so yeah, bear that in mind. But so today we're gonna follow a group of 4 university students from Glasgow on their way to committing one of the most infamous and influential thefts in the history of the United Kingdom. But this was in the 50s. So first, we're going to kind of have to go like all the way back. Candles are £7, by the way. I'll get to that at the end though. So, right, sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to answer questions for just the next 10-15 minutes now. I'm not being ignorant. Right. So, but yeah, first of all, to kind of understand the significance of this theft and what the heck this thing is that they even went to go steal in the 50s, we do have to take like quite a flipping, quite a jump back in the time machine. And yeah, the story basically starts in like the 5th century, and that's kind of where we have to start to get like a proper taste of it. But then we'll get into a big battle in the 13th century in some detail because it is quite well documented. I'll try keep that part slow, and like I say, we will have visuals on the screen to hopefully aid with that a little bit. We'll also, at the end, take a little look at the history of Edinburgh Castle, because that is where the story ends up. But anyway, the relic in question, this like thing that has been stolen, that all the fuss is about, probably isn't what you're thinking. It's not like some expensive gold scepter, which we like over here, by the way, or like anything like that. It is literally an oblong piece of sandstone, which is really, really weird. I don't know why it's become this like crazily historically significant thing, but it's like an oblong red piece of sandstone. I don't know if that's the proper one, because you'll find out why a little bit later on in the story, but that's basically what it looks like. I've got another picture of, and I think that was like defo one of the original ones, so we'll keep that up for a little bit. So they called it the Stone of Scone, or the Stone of Destiny. But before we get into like the theft and the present day kind of stuff that happened, let's just talk a little bit about the Stone of Destiny. It's often referred to in England as the Coronation Stone, and like I say, is an oblong block of red sandstone that has been used for centuries in coronations. Now, if you don't know what a coronation is, it's an act of placement or bestowal of a crown upon a monarch's head. In this case, we're talking like about the monarchs of Scotland. So like King Charles, or the King of Scotland, as he was known at the time, was the last monarch to be crowned in Scotland at Scone in 1651. But to truly understand the significance of this theft and kind of like the stone, we have to travel back to 498, literally the 5th and 6th century, and legend tells us, because at this point it is literally legend, and who the heck knows, but tells us that Fergus, son of Eric, first king of the Scots, brought the stone from Ireland, and he was crowned on it, so that was like the first person, all the way back in the 6th century. The Isle of Destiny is actually one of the traditional names for Ireland. Interesting side note. But a bit closer to today, during the Scottish War for Independence in 1296, King Edward, Edward Longshanks, as he was known, or Hammer of the Scots, which are two well cool names, right? I think we've got a picture of, is that the Hammer of the Scots? Yeah, that's the Hammer of the Scots. That's the man himself, Edward Longshanks, and this is where this whole thing begins. So up until that point, up until 1296, it was basically in Scotland, and it was cool. Until Longshanks took the stone or scone from Scotland and had it installed into a wooden chair known as King Edward's chair, where in fact most future British monarchs would be crowned. So it became a big deal for Britain as well. But some have said that the stone Edward took was a forgery, and the real one is hidden either in the River Tay or buried in Dunnistane Hill by monks from Scone Palace. But that's hard to prove. It's been like hundreds of years. Who the heck knows? So this is kind of what I'm saying. I don't know if that's a real picture of it. Anyway, 30 years after that, after it had been stolen in 1328, England agreed to return the stone back to Scotland, but major riots broke out. I don't know if it was actually due to the actual giving back of the stone or anything. But it was just basically a time when tensions between the Brits and Scots were really high and about to explode, as we're going to find out. In 1328 is when the war officially ended, when on the 13th of October the Treaty of Edinburgh Northampton restored Scottish independence, although most Scots would tell you that it was earlier than that they got this independence, in 1314 at the Battle of Bannockburn. So this is why this Battle of Bannockburn is a big deal, because the Brits kind of say, well, no, independence for Scotland was in 1328, but then the Scots would say, no, actually, it was when we kicked your asses in 1314, and you basically had to give us it back. So this is why we're going to go into that, not to mention, you might remember me mentioning it from the Skipton stream a while back. Right, Battle of Bannock Burn. I'll always forget that. So we're gonna have a little bit of a deep dive into it. This part I am worried about because it was kind of complicated, but green is going to be for the English and blue is going to be for the Scottish people, which hopefully on here you will be able to see quite easily. Hopefully. Let me just double check that on RPAN. So that could do with being a little larger, couldn't it? So kind of like that. So I may even just continue reading it from my phone, or okay. Right, okay. So this was basically this battle was between the Robert the Bruce, or the King of Scotland at the time, and Edward the Second, not the first, the second. So it was these two chaps that was basically the pioneers, the leaders, the kings of this particular fight. So yeah, look, by the Scots kicking our butts, it's literally in the script. So green for English, blue for the Scottish people. And I hope that helps. So surprisingly, this battle only took place over the course of a couple of days. So like I say, it's not like too long. It is literally only a short battle, but it was a decisive battle in Scottish history, whereby the Scots under Robert I, or the Bruce, we're going to call him Robert, defeated the English under Edward II, who we're going to be calling Edward, expanding Robert's territory and influence, which, as I say, was obviously a big deal. By the time of the battle in 1314, all of Scotland had been cleared of strongholds royal to Edward, with the exception of the besieged Stirling Castle, which the defenders, the Scottish, had promised to surrender if not relieved by June the 24th. Edward is estimated to have assembled an army of some 13,000 infantry, bolstered by a contingent of Welsh archers and roughly 3,000 cavalry to aid those still loyal to him, the English, in Scotland. And his primary objective in this was to basically siege the Stirling Castle. So to meet Edward's army, so to meet the English army, Robert, the Scottish, I'm sorry about doing that, I'm just trying to make it a little more simple. So basically, Edward was trying to attack the Scottish castle. So the Scottish were kind of defending, Edward were kind of attacking the Brits. And so the Scottish, Robert, gathered a smaller force consisting of perhaps 7,000 infantry and several hundred light horsemen, so a significant amount less than the Brits. At the New Park, a hunting preserve a mile or two south of Stirling. So Robert planned to use the trees there to funnel any attacks into his heavy infantry and freshly dug anti-cavalry ditches, basically just like traps in the floor. He had taken position there where the English vanguard, so like the special forces, appeared on June the 3rd. So Edward, or the English, attempted to circumvent the Scottish positions and possibly relieve Stirling Castle with a unit of small cavalry, but Scottish infantrymen rushed to meet them, and after the two groups fought to a stalemate or a draw, Scottish reinforcements arrived to send the English cavalry fleeing. Meanwhile, a second unit of English cavalry charged the Scottish main position. The Scottish main, we went a little bit too far there. The Scottish main position, interpreting the position's movements as a possible retreat. So the English charged the Scottish, and the English thought that the Scots were retreating. But after being rebuffed by the main Scottish force at the New Park, the second English attack climaxed with Roberts, the Scottish dude, actually himself engaging in personal combat with an English knight. The encounter, reportedly observed by both armies, ended with Robert the Scottish cleaving the English knight's head off with his battle axe. So that's pretty flipping gnarly. I've got to give Roberts that. After that, all English troops retreated to the main army as night fell. And that evening, the two armies experienced two very different situations. As you can imagine, Scottish morale was high following the day's victory, and Robert the Scot sought to increase it with an encouragement speech. Kind of like the Braveheart speech, if you picture that. That's literally where this drew inspiration from this. Meanwhile, the English, who was fearing a counter-attack, spent all of the night awake and in formation, and those who did rest dealt with poor camp conditions in a wet marsh. It's like a swamp, basically. So on the second day, the Scots began that day by holding Mass, which for anybody that doesn't know what Mass is, it's like a central act of worship by the Roman Catholic Church. It's often done on like Christmas and stuff like that. So I guess kind of a really weird thing for the Scottish people to be doing during this battle. And Edward, the English supposedly delayed the engagement a little bit, confused by the disposition of the Scottish infantrymen, who were all wielding spears but kind of like chilling. But nonetheless, the Brits still ordered an attack against the Scots with the cavalry. Cavalry was like the big boys in those days. Upon the initial charge, the English avoided the anti-cavalry ditches that we spoke about, those holes in the floor, but they were unable to penetrate the Scottish lines. Basically, Scottish defences were too strong. After multiple cavalry charges failed to break the Scottish defences, Robert the Scot began to move his infantry forward, and as the English backed up, the ditches hindered them after multiple horsemen fell in and could not escape. So on the way out, those ditches did actually do the trick. And then the battle basically transformed into an all-out flipping rout, all-out war, brawl, mosh pit, with many Englishmen not making it out there. And Edward the Englishman, the leader of King, whatever, I think the English barely escaped, like genuinely. Sorry, it jumps like that, it's really annoying. So English losses include 34 barons and knights, which were like big deal people, as well as thousands of footmen who were either killed or captured while fleeing from the battle. The Scots, however, claimed to have only lost 2 knights in comparison and only a few hundred infantrymen. And this battle is traditionally regarded as the culmination of the Scottish Wars of Independence, although Scottish independence would not be officially recognised until 1328, at the conclusion of all this, which was the Treaty of Northampton, or what we called it earlier, something in Northampton Treaty, with Edward's successor. So Edward had passed on by this point, and it was his successor who basically formalised it. So that's basically the fight part of it out of the way. Thank you for that. I hope that wasn't too hard to follow. It definitely could have been. But like I say, if you do want to, that was taken from, I think like a Scottish independence website. So it was a very Scottish-leaning article, which I wanted it to be that way anyway. So that wasn't mine. I did pinch that. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, the rest of it we've kind of is kind of ours. So we've got a little bit more to go at, ladies and gents, if you don't mind. But I'm going to continue reading from my phone now. And we are now talking about Ian Hamilton again. This is Ian Hamilton today. The guy is still alive, living legend. That is a wild battle. Thank you. I'm gonna plow on with this. I hope that was okay though. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm gonna plow on. Quick drink. If anybody wants a quick drink. And a quick drag. But now we're gonna get back to today, 1950s. Stealing of the scone, or the Stone of Destiny. So just one sec. So back to our timeline, and due to the riots, or at least, and now we're back in we're back in 1328. This is kind of afterwards. It was decided that the stone would remain in Westminster Abbey. In 1328. So because of all this, that and t'other that was going on, they decided that they were going to keep it at Westminster Abbey, which is this beautiful looking place. And I can give you another couple of shots present day. But it's a very wonderful building. We'll leave it on that one for now. And no further attempt would be made to return it back to Scotland for another 600 years. But anyway, back to near today. 1950 to be exact, where we find our merry band of uni students gone thieves on a 20-hour journey from Glasgow to London. These were the 4 unlikeliest of people that you think would engage in something so risky and dangerous, but convinced by Mr. Ian Hamilton, who was an early Scottish independence advocate, and is still alive today. Shout out Ian Hamilton. I would love to interview that guy. But yeah, with 3 other accomplices, which sadly I can't find pictures of, but Gavin Vernon, Kay Matheson and Alan Stewart. And they all agreed that Scotland is the rightful owner of the Stone of Destiny, and have basically agreed to aid Ian Hamilton on his quest to return it, who, without the team, it definitely wouldn't have been possible. But Ian Hamilton is credited with a lot of the logistics and just setting it all up and rallying the people up to actually go, do it and stuff. So after months of planning, the group set out for their journey on the evening of December 24th, 1950. The perfect crime, they thought, and you might recognise that as being Christmas Eve. You wouldn't be wrong in thinking that's Christmas Eve 1950. But it's not entirely sure how they got into the place, but during the removal process, it kind of does get a little murky at this point, but during the removal process, it's said that the stone accidentally broke into 2 pieces, and after burying the greater part of the stone in a Kent field, where they then camped for a few days, they uncovered the buried stone and returned to Scotland. According to an American diplomat who was posted in Edinburgh at the time, which was a really interesting little tidbit that I found, the stone was hidden for a short time in a trunk in the basement of a consulate's public affairs officer's. So the basement of a consulate's public affairs officer, unbeknown to this guy, before it was removed. The smaller pieces were similarly brought north at a later time. Not really too entirely sure where or when, kind of thing, or how, but they did eventually apparently make it back to Scotland up north. The entire stone was passed to a senior Glasgow politician who arranged for the Glasgow stone mason Robert Gray, who was a very interesting dude, check him out, to repair it professionally. The British government ordered at the time a major search of the stone, which proved unsuccessful, of course. The custodians left the stone at the altar of Arbroath Abbey. Sorry, that's a little bit of a difficult one. In the safekeeping of the Church of Scotland. Once the London police were informed of its whereabouts, the stone was returned to Westminster 4 months after it had been removed. So it did eventually get returned back to Westminster. But after rumours circulated that copies had been made of the stone at that time as well, and it wasn't even the original stone that flipping it was, the mystery continues, right? And in 1966, in more of a symbolic response to growing dissatisfaction amongst Scots at the prevailing constitutional settlement, the British government decided that the stone should be kept in Scotland when not used at those coronations that we talked about earlier. So, on the 3rd of July 1996, Prime Minister at the time, John Major, who was a very little known Prime Minister, announced that to the House of Commons that after a whopping 700 years, it would be, after it had been stolen, let's get that right, after 700 years ago it got stolen, the stone would be rightfully returned to its rightful home in Scotland. So, kind of a happy ending. On the 15th of November 1996, after a handover ceremony at the border between representatives of the Home Office, which is a ministerial department of the Government of the United Kingdom, responsible for immigration, security and law and order, and the Scottish Office, which is the Scottish equivalent, was the stone transported to Edinburgh Castle. Okay, so keep that in your head. Then a couple of weeks later, an official handover ceremony occurred also in Edinburgh Castle, pardon me, on the 30th of November 1966, which is St Andrew's Day, Scotland's official national day, to mark the arrival of the stone. It currently remains alongside the Crown Jewel of Scotland, the Honours of Scotland, in the Crown Room of Edinburgh Castle, and this literal slab of treasure dates back to the 15th and 16th centuries, and the Crown Jewels I'm talking about, Scottish Crown Jewels, not the stone. And that dates back to the 15th or 16th century and is the oldest surviving set of crown jewels in the British Isles, and many battles have been fought over those crown jewels that this stone is like at the side of. So that's just a different little tidbit, maybe a story for another day we could talk about. So, but if we could just take a moment to have a little chat about Edinburgh Castle, because seriously, that place is so cool. And just like from the official website, just a quick little reading just to kind of finish off this whole story and give it all in a little bit of a what's that saying? That's Westminster Abbey, Edinburgh Castle. So yeah, just to kind of finish this story off, I just thought we'll kind of do a little outro, talk a little bit about Edinburgh Castle, because this place is hella cool and somewhere that we're going to be visiting in the next, say, 3 to 6 months, all being well. But anyway, Edinburgh Castle is one of the oldest fortified places in Europe, with a long rich history of royal residence, military garrison, prison and fortresses. It is alive with many exciting tales. It says here that you can walk in the footsteps of soldiers, kings and queens, and even the odd pirate or two. Though parts of it remain in military use, the castle is now a world famous visitor attraction. It's also an iconic part of the old and new towns of Edinburgh World Heritage Site. So there's like another place called the Royal Mile, which is around that place, which is really, really cool. And that's got like a massive extensive history, just the Royal Mile. Edinburgh is just a cool place. I love flipping Scotland, if you can come down. So set upon its mighty rock, as you can see here, Edinburgh Castle's strategic advantage is clear. Seeing the site's military potential, Iron Age people built hill forts on the rock. Early medieval poetry tells of a war band that feasted here for years before riding to their deaths in battle. So yeah, goes back a long time. As well as guarding great moments in history, the castle has suffered many sieges. During the Wars of Independence, it changed hands many times. So in 1314, the Scots retook the castle from the English in a daring night raid by Thomas Randolph, nephew of Robert the Bruce, who we've just been talking about. So pretty cool. We could talk about that someday. That literally deserves its whole own episode. The castle defences have evolved over hundreds of years. Mons Meg, one of the greatest medieval cannons ever made, was given to King James II in 1457. The Half Moon Battery, built in the aftermath of the Lang Siege of 1573, was armed for 200 years by bronze guns known as the Seven Sisters. 6 more guns defend the Argyle Battery, which with its open outlook to the north. Edinburgh Castle was home to kings and queens for many centuries. Queen Margaret, who was later made a saint, Saint Margaret, died here in 1093. The chapel, built in her honour by her son, King David I, is Edinburgh's oldest building. St Margaret's Chapel still hosts weddings and christenings today. Again, somewhere I'd love to go. So these are all lifted off, I think it's Edinburgh's website. There's loads of stuff, and I've just kind of lifted a few to tell you. But the Great Hall, completed in 1511 for King James IV, I'm not good on Roman numerals, hosted grand banquets and state events, but the king had little time to enjoy his new addition and passed, sadly, at the Battle of Flodden in 1513, fighting English forces sent by his brother-in-law, King Henry VIII of England, who's quite a well-known king. Above the door to the royal palace are the gilded initials MAH for Mary, Queen of Scots, and a second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. Mary gave birth to James the Sixth, I think, VI, in the Royal Palace in 1566, and he became King of Scotland at 13 months old and united the crowns of Scotland and England in 1603, so that's really, really cool. The Honours of Scotland, which are the oldest crown jewels in Britain, which we were just talking about a minute ago, made of gold, silver, and literally all kinds of precious gems. Said that there was created in Scotland and Italy during the reigns of James the Fourth, I think, and James the Fifth. IV and V. The crown, sceptre, like I was telling you, we love those, and sword of the state were first used together for the coronation of a monarch in 1543, when Mary, Queen of Scots, came to the throne. The iconic Stone of Destiny, used for centuries to inaugurate monarchs, is also on display in the crown room, like we spoke about earlier. So there's a little bit more to go at there. They're saying it was a formidable stronghold, etc., etc. But I think I've thrown enough. Little facts at you there. Worcester, it's Worcester. I think I've thrown enough facts at you there. I think that will kind of do for there, but there's a little bit more, but I'll post it if you want to see the rest. But voila, and there is the end. Thank you so very kindly for everybody that has joined us. Now I will talk to people and get to everybody's comments. Sorry if I butchered anything there on any of the pronunciations. It's English history, so I have no excuse, but Edinburgh. Yeah, actually is. That is literally a funny lol moment. What's your thoughts on girls from Hull? Honestly, girls that like me are cool, pretty much. So I don't care where you're from. Girls and guys that like me are cool. Like I don't mind anyone. I'm not shy. so random. That castle though, come on, right? It makes Skipton Castle look like a flipping miniature. But yeah, that's the end of the show. I'm not going anywhere though, so feel free, Q&A, throw questions at me. I hope I did okay there. I kind of tried my best. I do feel like the script was definitely there, but whether the delivery or not was there is up for debate, absolutely. But I'm practicing. Oh. And again, thank you so much for everybody that sat through all that. They're me droning on forever. I am working on getting like PowerPoint presentation set up. But yeah, I'm a bit dumb and I've never done a PowerPoint presentation, so it's honestly easier to just line up tabs like a lazy Brit that I am and steal it and call it a presentation. As you've seen, we like to do that shit. But yeah, that's the show, guys and girls. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learnt a little something, or at least I hope that piqued your intrigue enough for you to go and learn it on your own. Scottish history is disgustingly neglected in at least English history, mainly because there's many times where they kicked our asses and made our monarchs look like idiots. But I don't mind telling those stories. I love telling those stories. I love Scotland. I love Scottish people. I love all people, to be honest, but yeah, man, I think the Scots have kind of been handed a real bad deal. They aren't independent anymore, so since all this, independence is not a thing anymore. So I think it's kind of important to just really dive into Scotland and to just know that it isn't just like some northern part of the UK. Scotland is Scotland, and up until very recently, it was its own place. It had its own kings and queens, and it was very, very happy to defend that shit. I'm Scottish. Whoa, nice, love it. Yeah, man. Sorry, a little too giddy there. Scotland is flipping awesome, Lola says though. Thank you, man. I hope I did Scottish history a little bit of justice there. I'm no expert for sure, by no means. Like, honestly, most of those sources are very easily findable, and it's not the most comprehensive thing that you could ever, write. But I feel like there's definitely enough there for you to go and Google some stuff for yourself, which is kind of the intention. I'm not a history teacher, so I don't expect you to leave here knowing exactly what the heck I've just said. But maybe you can remember some keywords and then go and read the Wikipedia entries and go check out where I think is it Edinburgh.com that we was on, like literally Edinburgh.com or something. No, that's a bookings one. Let me just find it. I think it was actually that one, Historic UK, that we looked at, and a lot of the Edinburgh Castle bit was stolen from this, I think. No, I think we actually used a different one. I do actually like to reword them as well, and I know that's not much different, but I do go through them and try reword them. Honestly, for no other reason, I will absolutely shout out these people and show you these sources that I'm not fully just writing these like myself, you know. They are available online and it's public information, but I do try to reword things in my own words because I find it way easier to read. So that's the reason why I do it. Like, it isn't to be like funny and try and make it my own and steal it or anything. I'm happy to tell you that, like, genuinely all of that shit really is just public information that I've found. I didn't get taught none of that in school, sadly. I've known none of that ever. So I don't expect y'all to have got that the first time round. But yeah, like King Edward II, Robert the Bruce, King Edward I, like the coronations and stuff, the Stone of Destiny. I mean, like I say, I'll post the script publicly so you can read through it, or maybe make it as a PDF or something. But let me have a drag of this. Right, let me get to some of these comments. Let me get to some of these bloody wonderful comments. Some of these wonderful people. Thank you, guys and gals. Great job, Silky says. Thank you. That castle, though, Raccoon, thank you for the claps. Thank you for the claps. Carv, I appreciate you. Did great, Kez. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. I hope I did okay-ish there. Let's just say that I'll only get better from this point. So, yeah, I appreciate you bearing with me, man, and, like, letting me practice these out. Because, genuinely, all jokes aside, I really enjoy doing this. When I first set out to create things online, honestly, I didn't ever think that live streaming was going to be where my strength lied. As you can see, I tried to do YouTube first, but turns out I am proper crap at editing, and turns out editing matters. So YouTube was like, right, I can't do that, and I started live streaming. But yeah, like, I do hope to be informative and to try and tell you guys, like, proper stories. I feel like we've definitely talked about me enough on streams for the last year, so it's about time that you guys and gals get some actual informative stories that you can tell I've put a bit of effort in, a little bit of care and love, compiling it all together at least, if not actually writing it. And giving a little bit more back for you guys and gals consistently coming to the streams, watching them when it's like 3 days on in a row where we just walk around the city centre doing the same boring thing. You guys come, you don't complain, you just be nice to me and show me love. I really do want to do my best, and I promise you those visuals are going to get better. So they rebuilt the stone out of the remaining pieces. I think so, yeah. The stonemason that I referenced, he basically put the thing back together and kind of reconstructed it best he could. And from what I can gather, that is what it actually looks like. So that is literally the piece that it is. Like, that is it. So a lot of the other ones I think are fake or recreations, and I'm pretty sure that's the real one. But yeah, don't tell me off if your history teacher says that it's wrong, because it might not be. It looks it though, and it looks genuine enough, right? Right. Glaswegian, awesome telly, that is so cool, man, that is really cool. I honestly aspire to visit this year, definitely, at least if we're supposed to be allowed and stuff. I'd really wanna. Delivery was perfect, thank you Flipping Backs, bless your heart and soul. I met a girl from Hull on Tinder, and she had 2 full silk cases of dildos and bondage gear under her bed. Ooh! not far from Beverly. Shout out to Beverly, man. I used to have a partner in Ghoul who I was madly in love with, isn't it? It was like a holiday romance and it was super crazy. Shout outs to East Riding, I think, East Yorkshire. I think. Yeah, man, that's cool. Honestly, yeah, Hull is literally the exact same as Bradford. So anything that people say about Hull, you can say about Bradford. As in, it's a shithole, it's full of this, it's full of that. Like, Bradford is exactly the same. I've only ever been once, admittedly, and it wasn't for a long time. You're gonna like this, though. Maybe some of you might not. But it was actually to get the ferry to go to Amsterdam for the weekend with a friend. Way back when I was like 17. So I only drove through. But seriously, if I didn't know Bradford super well, and you showed me a picture of Hull and said that's Bradford, I'd be like, yeah, no, that's definitely Bradford because they look so similar. They're both mill towns as well in their essence, I think. I adore my country's history, Raccoon says. Also, I adore history in general, to be honest. I don't think it even matters what history it is. I think my initial love for history was sparked by John Green and Hank Green. Well, it was more John Green. Hank was the psychology dude, but John Green sparked my love for history maybe 8 or 9 years ago when Crash Course was coming out on YouTube, and I was literally, that was in the days when I was waiting for the next week for the another Crash Course to come out, and I was drop everything to watch that Crash Course World History episode, and that Crash Course Psychology episode as well, which most of what I don't remember, of course, but they're really good playlists and you should check them out. I actually read Paper Towns by John Green, which sadly I don't still have that book anymore. I've since lost it, but yeah, Paper Towns is a really good book too. Right, sorry if I'm a little bit behind on chat, guys and gals. Scotland is awesome. I need to get to highlighting where we get to, so I don't know. Man was even teaching me things. Do you know, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because even for us lot, English and Scottish people, this isn't general knowledge. It's not taught in schools and stuff, and it absolutely should be. But yeah, it's not part of national curriculum, weirdly enough. We learn about the Queen and we learn about King Henry VIII, which is arguably one of the most boring kings, aside from the fact that he was really mean to a load of wives. And it kind of fought against Reformation a little bit and separated church and state, which was, I guess, kind of good depending on which side of the coin you land. But yeah, we don't learn about a lot of the important ones, like the Battle of Bannockburn. Is it Bannockburn? Bannockburn? Sorry, I'll always get that wrong. I'm such a dope. But that was such a pivotal flipping war. It really, really defined Scottish independence and Scottish monarchies and Scotland, you know. And I think being part of the UK, that's very important. And like I say, admittedly, I did not know about a lot of this stuff until I started researching it. It was actually an American friend who recommended this story to me. So yeah, you know, that says it all, right? For reals. I know my country's history, we got that one, I think. I'll visit someday, but never bother. People from outside UK tend to visit historical places more than us locals. Yeah, I think because of just the way that it is, you kind of realise after school, I think, that there's so many places that you haven't been told about, and that kind of, at least for me, made me just think, what? Why have I never... What? How do I not know about this? I've been alive in England for 27 years, and not one person in my life, out of the thousands of people that I've met, have ever mentioned this, or at least mentioned it to a point where I've remembered it, which honestly, the first time I read about it, I was like, wow, that's well cool. The first Scottish independence war. Wow, epic. If anybody had told me that in my life, I swear I'd have remembered it, even at 13, because it's just a pivotal thing, a big thing. The first Scottish War of Independence. I mean, it's in the name, you know. I would love to visit someday myself. I'm up north. I'm in Bradford, which is north of the UK, but not quite northern enough to be up there with you lovely Scots. But I promise you this now. Mark my words. We are going to be visiting Edinburgh, but that's going to be hopefully when kind of going to be able to stay there for like a couple of days maybe, rather than visiting in the day, because it takes a while to kind of get there. It's effectively like the same journey from here to London, which just goes to show how big Scotland actually is. Like, Scotland is like massive, especially when you account for the Highlands and shit too. It's a huge place. But yeah, it takes about 3 hours to get there on train, I think, and same for London, about 3.5 hours. But yeah, I'd like to be able to stay there overnight and possibly do like a couple of things, do like a scripted bit on site, like we'll go to Edinburgh Castle and talk about a battle there, actually there, and film it, try to get a friend to go with me. But obviously, as you know, things like that do cost money, so I'm just gonna, as I get to saving pretty much, but I like saving anyway, and giving me things to save up for is great. So yeah, saving up to go to Edinburgh and go to Edinburgh Castle, go see the Royal Mile, the hall, the crown room and shit. I mean, gosh, that is, whatever it's gonna cost, it's gonna be worth it. So yeah, I haven't quite worked out the logistics, but I don't actually think it'd be that much. Like, I'm talking a couple £100. It'd probably do us for a night and get us there and back, and I'd probably be able to get a bite to eat. So it ain't like thousands of pounds that you need, Like I say, we're relatively close, but up north here, so yeah, we're not far off. I know that from Leeds train station, you can get to Scotland from Leeds train station, so it isn't that difficult. Like, it won't take much. Should have featured in Game of Thrones. Totally. You would be a cool teacher. Bless you, flipping backs. Thank you. Do you know, teaching has been always an incredible passion of mine. I don't know. I really. And now we're in. Oof. What's all this then? Gallows, welcome! With a heavy heart, I have to say that you've kind of missed it today. But the good thing is, of course, you can go back and watch it. But hey, what is up? Go back to the start of the stream. We was hanging around and waiting for you, but I did say that about that time when we started was a real bad time for you. Finishing work, getting home, decompressing, sorting your head out kind of hours. It's going to be that time for you and you. So I'm really sorry about that, but it's like nearly 9 now for me, and I'm a little wuss for staying up late, you know me. But welcome. We have spoke about, we spoke about the Stone of Scone, which you may have possibly heard of. We tried waiting for you. We did, didn't we, Norman Lola? Didn't we? Tell her. We did. No, I've only played. But no, we did try waiting for you. But I did definitely know that it was a real bad time for you, sadly. So I'm really sorry about that. I'm gonna chop it down and upload it to YouTube, so you can go and watch the shortened version if you really want. Have a little bit of a laugh at how I did. I don't think it was that bad of a performance, though. I mean, I'm not sure if many people would even dare attempt to do some shit like this, really, but I'm a very confident reader, thank the Lord. I was always too poor for a telly growing up, so yeah, man, I've read hundreds of books at this point, many of them 10 or 15 pages long, admittedly, but Harry Potter books, I've read cover to cover, all of them up to Goblet of Fire. I stopped after that point because I grew up, basically, and started reading other books what books were I started? I started getting into things like Russell Brand Revolution. That was an early book that I really fell in love with. The People and the Lie by Scott Peck. That was one that I fell in love with early. That was a really cool little story, actually. But yeah, anyway, I'm talking about this because the lovely Stone Gallows got me a book, and I really appreciate it, seriously. I don't know if you want naming and shaming on stream, but there's only a few of us here anyway. Most of us are from Discord, and I really appreciate it, man, seriously. I've got it right here. And we are going to get to work on this straight away. Tonight is going to be a wild night. I have got extra Red Bull in lieu of this book, so I've had a little warm up read. I've had my little bit of fun with you guys and had a read. But yeah, seriously, I am I am going to do a full book review on this book. You may have to give me a few weeks possibly to get through it all. But yeah, I'm going to properly review the book. Like, I am going to genuinely commit to actually reviewing that book. I've seen that book loads. I've wanted to read that book loads, and yeah, I just know already that I'm going to want to talk about it all the time to everybody afterwards. So I'm just going to announce it now. There's going to be a book review for this book. This is your brain on music. Actually, I thought it was at some later date on the YouTube channel. So yeah. Also, if you missed any of this or you came a little late, probably tonight I'm going to chop it down, just the part where we basically get into the story, and upload that to YouTube so you can go and watch like a shortened version of it. And like I say, if anybody wants me to post it so you can read through it, I can do that too. But I guess there's no real point in that, because you can just like rewind this over and over again if you really wanted to. But I know people like myself, I know I wouldn't mind reading through it myself, kind of thing, because I kind of understand things a bit better when I read them myself, I think. I hope, at least. I like to hope. But yeah, anyway, I always find history fascinating, for sure, I do. Can you play Recognised by Warren G? Yeah, Snoop Doggy Dogg, I'll get to requests in just a moment. Yeah, I will. If you give me 2 minutes, I'm going to get through these comments, and I promise you I will do. Love this, do more for sure. Thank you, Person Under the Stair. That was definitely me as a kid too. Sorry if you already mentioned this, but where is the stone located now, or at least the one that is used for coronations, assuming that's the real one? Sorry, yeah, so it is now in Edinburgh Castle, next to the crown jewels of Scotland, in like the crown room, so it's like a heavily protected kind of like room sort of thing. But yeah, it is in Scotland when it isn't being used for coronations. So I think it'll only ever get taken from there, like when the Queen passes and somebody else gets like crowned, like the King or Queen. Then there might be some chatter about it being moved around, possibly. Or we might just go down there to do the coronation in Edinburgh. But yeah, right now, as we speak, it is back in Scotland in Edinburgh Castle, which, like I say, I hope to visit. I really hope to visit. Eventually, in a few months, hopefully, we'll get there. Bless you. Book sleeve summary, cares, skill salesman, yeah. That's not the first time I've heard that one. Oh, I tell you. Bless you. It's been a day and a half, I tell you. Glad to catch the tail end of this, at least. I am very glad to see you too, and I'm sorry it's been a day and a half. It does not help, does it? Bless your heart and soul. At least I think now is about your time to be chilling, and where that is now in the past and can no longer hurt you. And the future is bright, my friend. The future is always bright. Yeah, but thanks for joining us, everybody. I am probably going to wrap it up because I've not even had my tea yet. I was like literally madly adding the parts about the Edinburgh Castle and about the battle. I wasn't going to do them bits initially, and it was just going to be it was just going to be about the stealing of the stone. But I decided, do you know what? After this afternoon stream, y'all were saying like, yeah, throw a bit of history at us. Why not, right? I thought, yeah, why the heck not? And I got to work with that straight away. And I hope it was decent enough and nice to follow. That one wasn't proofread by anybody, Stone Gallows. But Stone Gallows usually proofreads because she can do good at that kind of stuff. Better than I can. But yeah, so this one might have been a little more difficult to read because I was left to my own devices on this one. So that's why it might have been a little bit rough at times, but yeah, I tried my best and had lots of fun doing so I hope you guys enjoyed that. At least the effort was there, I suppose, right? Right, hang on, we've been talking about my future homeland of Scotland, where I'm going to build a small cottage up on a hillside with an oddly named sheep, nearby the place Kez always calls Bannockburn or something. Yeah, man! That is literally what we've been talking about, Stone Gallows. Oh my gosh, I knew you'd understand and know what I'm on about anyway, because I know that you like Scotland, so I knew you'd know about it anyway. So yeah, you probably haven't missed actually too much anything that you probably haven't already heard. Because like I say, a lot of what I've